On this channel, we talk a lot about what are the do's and don'ts of watch collecting, but the big takeaway sometimes is that there's a personal journey that we're speaking about, and there really is no one perfect way of going down this route in this journey that is ultimately yours to create. But there are still ideas and general concepts that I think are important to think about, and there's ideas in my mind when I go to look to buy a watch. I'm always referring back to common principles and reminders so that I am staying true to the course. So in this video, we're gonna be looking at 6 different questions that I always ask myself when I am looking to buy a watch, and maybe they'll be helpful for you in your future acquisitions. Since this is more of an opinionated video, these are my questions, so if you don't agree with them, that's fine. You can go ahead and not listen to any of these, but for some of you out there, and you maybe do care about what I have to say, hopefully these are helpful for you. I think you all know my general philosophy on watches, which is, buy what you love, buy what you can afford, and enjoy it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So now let's kick it off with the first question that I always ask myself, and this isn't just for watches, this is really just for anything that I acquire in life. The question is, what if no one knew? The whole point around this is when we are so drawn to a hobby like watch collecting, oftentimes we want to belong and we want to buy something that shows other people what we are and how we're so in the know about what we collect. But I flip this around actually when looking at watches as well as anything else that I decide to own, because I think it's important if you're able to still find enjoyment in something that everybody in your life didn't know that you had, that's probably a great indication that you're buying it for the right reasons. It's a wild idea when you first put this framework around looking to buy something, because you recognize for many of us that we are so drawn to acquiring things that might send a message to other people. And watches, because it's such an expensive game, this can be a very catastrophic type of result if you're spending thousands of dollars trying to please other people. You have to like the thing that you are buying. That is the most important aspect of all of this. And if you remove the pressure that comes with trying to please others, I find this to be a way more pleasing exercise, and you start to get more in tune with what you are probably best suited with and trying to own. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think there's a ton to be said about being able to share your passion with others, but if showing off is your main driver, you will find yourself acquiring watches for the wrong reasons. The truth is, the vast majority of people are never going to notice or care about the watch that you decide to own or wear. I have found through experience the act of buying for others is just filling this void that is bigger than the hobby itself, and you'll find it only is going to perpetuate that emptiness further. To me, the quest for belonging is not a chase in the direction of others, it's a chase that you have to set internally. This is a big reason why I've not released a collection video in quite some time, because what I was finding for myself is I was acquiring watches as a way for show rather than thinking about what I wanted as a collector. I love you guys. You guys are great. I'm so appreciative that you watch, but I don't need your opinions about what are the right watches for me. I buy this and I acquire watches. I enjoy watches because that is my journey to determine, and only my journey to determine. And that should be the same for you. Yes, you can of course take into consideration what other people are saying, what they think, but at the end of it all, you have to figure out what is best for you and let that be personal enjoyment internally, not external. Watch collection should be developed on your own terms, and this is a game where those are the only terms that matter. So for this next question, this is a little bit of a stranger one, but stick with me here. The question is, where is my hammer? Now, what I mean by this, and I just want to disclaim this at the beginning, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to give you financial advice, but this is just what works for me in my own life. What I mean by this is if you were to take something that you loved or you owned, you want to, when looking at an object like a watch, recognize that there's a bigger picture of life. Watches are phenomenal little objects that have so much embedded within them that can become a part of us if we wear them well and enjoy our lives. However, we need to enjoy our lives, and in order to do that, you need to have peace, you need to be able to be financially secure. So my whole point here is if the watch that you decide to own or the watches that you own are too much of your financial world, you are going to be hurting. Watches are not necessary, so it's important to keep that in mind. So what do I mean by this hammer? If you were to take one watch, if you have a single watch, or all of your watches in your collection, you went outside and grabbed a hammer, you can bring your family along, You could do whatever you'd like, but you bring everybody out there and you grab the hammer, you grab the watches, and you just start destroying everything. If by the end of that, you are, maybe, yes, you probably are bothered by all of this because it hurts, you love your watches, but if it doesn't change your financial future and create a burden on your life and you can still afford the necessities of life, then you're okay. But what oftentimes happens with many people is they go too deep into their hobby where they forget about the things that matter. You should be able to destroy your watches and your livelihood should not change. You never want to be this guy hitting the thing with the hammer, thinking about, okay, we can have hot dogs again. Who needs a bed frame? A mattress on the floor is just fine. Who needs electricity? Our ancestors used candles to light their houses. Don't be that guy. Have your life and priorities in order. Watches are supposed to bring enjoyment, not create stress. The things you own end up owning you if your priorities are out of whack. Now, some of you might be saying, Teddy, you only live once. What are you talking about? We should enjoy the money that we make. We should spend it on all different types of things. We're gonna be in the grave anyway. Well, you're precisely right. So don't waste all your money on things that cause stress over things that should only be providing you enjoyment. So before we proceed to question number 3, we are very close to Watches and Wonders. And if you guys wanna get all of the details of what watches are coming out at the largest trade show in the industry, you're going to wanna be following us here, as well as subscribe to our newsletter on our website. We have 8 members of our team going to be attending Watches and Wonders this year. So we are really aiming to be the #1 destination and stop for all things news around the show. If you wanna see what's coming out new from Rolex, Grand Seiko, Tudor, Oris, IWC, Lange, Vacheron Constantin, JLC, and a lot more, you're going to want to be subscribed here as well as on our website. If you create a profile, you'll be able to leave comments. You'll get to see all the up-to-date articles. Be sure to do that. I'm really excited about what we have planned for the show. We don't know what's coming. That's basically how this goes every single year, but we are going to be ready for whatever they throw at us. And if you want to be in the loop about what comes out, be sure to be subscribed in both of those areas. Question number 3 is it love or is it lust? One of the biggest challenges for collectors, especially in the early stages, is having to slow the pace of acquisition. When you first get into something, you're so infatuated with the concept of a new hobby and you just want to buy. Anything that looks interesting, you're gonna buy it, but you start to create a unfortunate reality where you're acquiring goods that are not best for you. So a lot of the mistakes and the sound decisions come through refinement. You definitely need these mistakes to be able to get better at making those decisions. But sometimes if you just pause and are able to relax in what you're taking in, you can start to be a more discerning buyer and prevent some of the missteps that will ultimately happen along the way if you did rush everything. Now, buying quickly is not always an issue if you know what you like, but it does take time to typically get there. A simple night's sleep can go a long way, so take the time to really understand, is this a watch that is going to make a lasting impact? Can you not quit the thoughts going through your mind about it for days and you've been thinking about it for a long period? That's usually a better indication about whether or not that watch is right for you. Short and fluttering infatuation rarely leads to long-term passion. If the feelings are still there beyond the short moment, it's a better indication that the watch might be right for you long-term. Question number 4, do I like the concept of the watch in general, or do I like it for me? This is important, and I appreciate many different watches. As I have been able to determine what my taste is, I've gotten very, very good at understanding what will work for me and what doesn't work for me. But because I've been able to handle so many watches, I have really broadened what I enjoy, but what I enjoy versus what works for me are two drastically different things. In the early days, anything that I found interesting at the initial onset, I was typically even thinking about an acquisition right thereafter, but it has to work for you. If not, it's a miss. Just to give an analogy to help really drive this point forward, you may have been in an art gallery before, maybe a museum, or maybe at your friend's house who had a really cool vibe and a piece on the wall that you enjoyed. If you saw that piece in that environment, you may have had a certain thought and thought, wow, this is amazing. I really like this. But just because you like that piece of art in that circumstance doesn't mean that it's going to work for your circumstance. Maybe your house doesn't fit what that art piece is all about. Now, some might argue that art will transcend the room that it's in, and sure, fair point. But what I think we have to look at here is that the things that you decide to own also have to be a representation of your own self-expression and work for you. Understanding your style and expressing it in the right way is going to allow you to have that much more enjoyment. As another example, maybe you like the idea of a rear-wheel drive vehicle, a sports car, as a daily driver, and it's a cool concept. But if you live in a snowy region and you have 5 kids running around and you have all the additional trunk space that is gonna come with that, and you need that, the 2-seater with the little amount of trunk space probably is going to start to lose its luster. The whole idea is that owning something versus what works in your circumstance are 2 drastically different ideas. You want the watches that you own to make sense for your circumstance and to match the area of expression for yourself. Self-awareness is also just an important trait. So when you're buying a watch, don't let it limit you, but also don't let the interest broadly misguide a personal decision for what works. Number 5, what's the point if I don't wear it? Watches are intended to be worn. Crazy thought, I know. But if you look around at many collectors, many have some of their pieces just collecting dust. This could be for a variety of reasons. One is going to be the whole concept of the investment watch, which I have always spoken against for years, and you've seen what's happened in recent years with many of the watch prices in the secondary market going down compared to where they were post-COVID. Watches are not going to be as great of an investment compared to pretty much any other investment vehicle out there that is more widely established. And then plus, I philosophically just don't align with this idea, given that I think a watch needs to be enjoyed to be able to be considered a proper watch for you. My opinion, some people might not agree with that, but that is my take on this. To be clear, resale value is not something that you shouldn't factor in, and for certain people, you should absolutely consider it if you're spending a ton of money on something. But if that's the only reason that you were buying it, and the ratio of why you're buying something is weighted so heavily in that direction where nothing else matters, you're going to be disappointed. And you're gonna be missing the plot of all of this in the first place. You also have those people that are just afraid to scratch the watches that they wear, and again, are forgetting that these are not museum pieces that are going to be sitting behind glass all the time. You need to wear them. It's okay if you scratch your watch. I honestly find joy when I scratch a watch. Like when I bang my watch against something, like just hit it against the wall, hit it against anything that I'm doing on a day-to-day, I am not upset. Oftentimes I'm smiling when I look down at a scratch. Like that's the weird type of guy that I am, because I recognize now that this is my watch. This is my lived experience, and that makes that much more special and creates sentimental value to me and whoever might ultimately own this watch someday down the road. Lived in experience is what makes a watch valuable. And this just sounds nice. I mean, it's got a nice ring to it, but it's also true. I mean, look at some of the most expensive watches ever sold at auction. Something like the Paul Newman Daytona. Why was that watch valuable? Was it because he just kept it in a drawer all his life? No, it was clearly a watch that he wore over and over again. And because he wore it and it was gifted by his wife, that watch was so connected to human experience, and it made it that much more valuable to those that wanted to obtain it. Now, you and I are probably not as cool as Paul Newman, but I think you get my point. And then for the final question here, does it fit my plan? I've talked about the concept of having a philosophy around your collection. This is one of the most crucial aspects, but it comes with time and it shouldn't be so rigid. But shooting from the hip, it's okay when you have a ton of ammo, but watches are not cheap and funds are not easy to come by, so it's important to have a plan. The artistry and handcrafted nature of a watch just leads to there being a different hierarchy of value compared to most goods. They are expensive. There are gonna be things that will come up. You're gonna have to refine this process about what is your plan around collecting as you start to figure out what is for you and what is not. There is a point though, however, where the lack of thought and a path to contentment leads to the antithesis of the intended result. You wanna make sure that you are on a path of understanding the broader collection that you're hoping to build. Redundancies can get in the way of wear. If you just keep buying every nice black dial dive watch and you didn't give much thought to it, you're gonna find that you're going to grab maybe 1 or 2 of them and all the rest of them are going to collect dust. That becomes an important lesson and an expensive one at that as you start to look forward about what is the next step for you. Further, I find a lot of people that don't have a plan will just give into instant gratification very easily. Maybe they have a watch that they have their mind set on, and it's in the distance. It's more of this grail watch for them, but it's within reach. They just have to be a tad more patient. We might be talking about months of patience here, and they can get the watch responsibly. That is what they truly dreamed of. But if you don't have the plan, what will happen is you might buy an alternative to that watch, and then that becomes something that doesn't scratch the itch for you, and you're back to square one again with a watch that only just taught you a lesson about what you need to maybe do for the future. The plan and philosophy of your collection is going to change over the years, so it's always important to go back to it time and time again. Yet balance with a plan that is revisited from time to time is going to create a more effective and satisfied collector. But all right, guys, those are 6 questions that I always ask myself when looking to buy a watch. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really do appreciate that. Again, this is just my opinion. You can go ahead and buy watches however you'd like, but this has been helpful for me in both buying watches, but also a lot of other things in my life. I try to always bridge practicality and being rational with a lot of the emotional enthusiasm that comes with hobbyist type of ideas. So I just shared with you some of my wisdom. I'd love to hear some of your wisdom as well, because there are some very seasoned collectors that I know that watch this channel. If there is one question you like to ask yourself before you buy a watch, leave a comment down below so other people can start to look at that and maybe think about it for themselves. Also, if you are in the market for a watch, you've been doing your thinking, you've been asking these questions, and you're looking to buy something, definitely check out teddybaldestar.com. teddybaldestar.com is an authorized dealer for over 30 brands. Every purchase from teddybaldestar.com comes with quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. Also, if you have any questions about the watches on our website, you're looking to buy something, check out that little bubble in the bottom right corner of the website where you can reach out to one of my team members. We're on there around 18 hours a day. Those are not just random like AI generated chat bots down there. Those are real people. Those are watch enthusiasts just like you and me, and they'd love to be able to help you out with any questions that you have for your next purchase. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.